Let me guess, you're running UGC ads, maybe you've hired great creators, maybe the visuals are polished, maybe the messaging feels on brand, and yet nothing is converting. ROAS is stuck, CPAs are increasing, and the worst thing is you can't even figure out why. Here's the thing, this is not just your brand, this is a pattern happening across 90% of skincare brands trying to scale using UGC right now, and most of them think it's a creator issue or that they just need a better hook. But what they don't realize is the problem isn't the content, it's the system behind it. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly why even good UGC creators won't save you if you have a broken creative system, and most importantly, how you can fix it. My goal for you is that by the end of the video, you understand the invisible bottlenecks that are killing your ad performance, and that you'll walk away knowing exactly how top performing brands build consistent, profitable UGC systems at scale. No fluff, no vague tips, just clarity. I'm Moses, founder of Dose Dynamics. We help skincare brands launch winning ads every single week without hiring creators, without planning shoots, and without shipping products. Let's get straight into the video. Most founders and creative teams think that performance comes from the creator. So when the ads underperform, they blame the actor, the lighting, the energy, the editing, the messaging, the traffic they've been in last week, anything besides the real problem. But what if I told you that the real reason your ads don't convert has nothing to do with those, and what's really happening, and why each part is silently killing your performance without you maybe even being aware? You're building ads one at a time and not in a structured sequence. This means that every ad stands alone. There's no messaging theme and there's no compounding effect. Every creative has to start from scratch, wasting time, effort, and data. When you consistently produce standalone ads, what you're actually doing is you are consistently resetting the viewer at the top of the funnel instead of having a system that guides them through that funnel and eventually gets them to buy. Another thing is you're copying winning ads without adapting to your product's emotional angle. Just because a TikTok trend or hook worked for another skincare product or another skincare brand doesn't mean it will work for yours. Without anchoring the format to your customer's actual pain point, it just becomes noise. What you're copying might be built on completely different positioning. Let's break this down for a second. Imagine another skincare brand whose ad that you're copying. Imagine their customer archetype are Gen Z, girls between 18 and 21 years old. Their reason to buy, or what they would be looking for, is probably to maximize their looks because they're young, right? However, if you're a skincare brand, for example, whose customers archetype is women in their 30s or in their 40s, women that are, already married or maybe even have kids, their goal may not be essentially to maximize their looks, whilst it may be a byproduct, and they would probably be more focused on maximizing their health. And so even though the product could be the exact same, the customer archetype is what makes the ad, and the way you communicate is based on the customer archetype. And lastly, you're not posting strategically, you're just posting and praying. This means there's no methods behind your upload. You're throwing up ads hoping they'll work. But if you're not isolating variables, tracking message angles, or sequencing different benefit demos, how would you even know what's converting? Because the thing is, the broken system is not just there, it's actually costing you money and time. Thousands in wasted ad spend because your ads aren't built or tested within a structured system. Most of them are dead on arrival and you just burn through budget without generating consistent winners. And even if you do find consistent winners due to the sheer amount of volume you're doing, which may be the case, but it doesn't have to be that way. It can be done in a way more efficient way where it takes way less time to get that same output or more. Weeks lost waiting on creators only to get one or two videos that don't perform. Without a repeatable process, each cycle is unpredictable. You're stuck in revision headache, waiting for reshoots with no idea if the next one will even work. And once again, even if you do, despite all of this, still manage to find the consistent winners, look at the amount of time you've wasted. And imagine if you could compress that time and still get that same output that you desire. Constant creative fatigue, not just for your audience, but also for your team. Your internal workflow becomes chaotic. Your content calendar has gaps. Your performance starts to drop as your ads age because your system can't generate variations fast enough. And worst of all, you can't learn from failures because every failure just feels like a dead end instead of a data point you can improve from. And this isn't the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is that if you're not even aware, because if you're not aware of where the problem is, then you can't fix it in the first place. This is assuming that you're aware of your problem. If you're not aware of your problem, then it's even worse, because if you don't know what's going wrong, then you're also not going to know what to do to make it right. Now, I'm going to give you some strategic solutions so we can fix this. Most brands, this is what they do. They shoot a testimonial ad here, a demo ad there, a hook sometimes next week, a list hooker ad sometimes next year. You get the point. They're treating creators like scattered puzzle pieces instead of modular building blocks that can plug and play into each other. For example, instead of having one testimonial ad, one product feature ad, one unrelated trend, and then the direct offer, you would see better results following a proven framework of a cold awareness ad, a warm-up ad, a product feature ad or a product benefit ad, a social proof ad, and only then have the offer ad, where it feels like it's the logical next step and not like a hard sell. And in that order, every single time. This would mean that you'll be taking customers from cold to wanting to give you their money. Essentially, what you would be doing is, instead of resetting them at the top funnel page by having individual assets, and instead of forcing them through the funnel by, being too aggressive, you would be passively guiding them down that funnel until they're ready to purchase. Now, in terms of the formats of the cold awareness ad, the warm-up ad, etc., these are things you would have to test. But already having a modular sequence, that's already gonna drastically improve your results, especially if it's one that is proven. And the ultimate outcome of how this process would look like would be, you're gonna be spending way less time because you're following the same system repeatedly. You're gonna potentially drive way more results in terms of ROAS because you're following a proven framework used by top brands, and not only more potential revenue, but more potential revenue in way less time, because you're not gonna need as much effort and time to your current output, since you're working way more efficiently. And that is how you increase your conversions. Now, the second thing is use ad frameworks, not inspiration-based editing. And also make sure that the winning ads is from a brand that's got a similar custom archetype and doesn't just have a random winning ad, even though they are a skincare brand as well. Not because you're doing something wrong, not because it wasn't a winning ad, it's just because your ideal customer wouldn't be able to relate to it the same way that their ones would. And so a winning ad is objective, but also has subjective components that comes with it. High performing UGC ads follow battle tested structures, so they don't rely on what the editor feels looks good or what the founder feels looks good. For example, one of the proven formats that I like is the product reaction benefit CTA flow. Start with a emotional problem. For example, struggling with acne, struggling with dry skin, anything like that. And then you follow by showing the user reaction or frustration, introduce your product and the clear benefit on how it solves their problem. Obviously, this structure works because it mirrors how your customer thinks. It grabs attention, it builds emotional connection, and then positions your product as the clear solution. Most brands skip this structure entirely, or one of the many structures you can use, and jump straight into, here's what this product does, or this is why our product is the best, or this is why you should choose us. But the problem is they're not aware of their problem yet, so they don't know why they should buy yet. And this specifically, it kills performance. The next thing I'd say is create batch variations up front, not one ad at a time. Instead of editing one UGC video at a time, I would recommend delivering 3 or 4 variations per ad from day one. The reason why is because one ad will rarely perform well alone. Performance comes from testing multiple angles. When you build variations up front, you can test multiple hooks, intros, CTAs, and overlays with zero extra production effort. It also allows you to save time in editing and analysis because all performance signals come at once instead of dragging it over weeks. This is how we are able to give brands an absurd amount of variations every single week from just 3 concepts. It's not extra work, it's honestly just structured smarter. The next thing is use performance prediction logic to choose formats. Some ad formats have a higher chance of success depending on your offer, your audience, and your product category. We don't treat all creatives equally. For example, products with complex ingredients tend to do better using educational demos with an overlay text. Emotional products like anti-aging, they tend to do better if you use face-to-camera testimonials with authentic storytelling, because obviously your ideal customer is going to be imagining themselves in that person that is obviously explaining this or telling the story, and is going to be willing to hear from somebody that's exactly like them in their specific situation so they can finally make the decision. And for low trust markets, a good example you can use is review and unboxing hybrids with heavy voiceover. The more your format matches your customer's buying psychology, the higher your chance of conversion. That's quite essentially the reason why random UGC almost always fails. It's just mismatched to the buying moment. Lastly, plug this all into a weekly system. Even if you had the best creative system, it becomes useless if not delivered consistently. That's why we build a weekly drop system where brands receive modular, high probability ads on a set schedule, tested and optimized over time. This gives you 2 things. Speed, because you're now not falling behind competitors, and 2, control, because you now know every single week what's being tested, delivered, and improved. Without a system, everything becomes inconsistent and reactive. But with a system, UGC becomes a lever, not a gamble. Let's talk about what happens if you don't fix this. You keep burning ad budget, and not just in small amounts. We're talking thousands per month on creatives that never had a shot at converting. And even if they did convert, imagine all of that time that you wasted, weeks, months, just for that output, whilst that same output could have been achieved in way less time for the same input or even less input, which means you could have scaled faster because they weren't planned around a true system. They were reactive, last minute, and ultimately completely misaligned with your ideal customer's journey. And when you burn ad budget, what happens next? You start cutting creative testing altogether. Funny enough, this is the reason why a lot of brands stop believing in UGC or are even scared to try UGC to begin with. You become quiet, you become hesitant, and you default back to the content that you already have, even if it's outdated or underperforming. And over time, your CPAs increase and your ROAS shrinks. Your ads get fewer impressions because the algorithm senses poor performance. And even worse, your competitors are not slowing down. Instead, they're doubling down on structured content systems that scale, leaving you behind. They're showing up consistently, and your potential customers are seeing them, not you. You don't just lose conversions, you actually lose market share. And if you're trying to pitch investors, land retailers, or justify budget expansions, all they're going to see is flat or declining numbers, which ultimately means no growth runway. The truth is, without a system, you can't scale, you plateau, you stall, and your brand slips into irrelevance. Now, if this made something finally click for you, or you've seen the same performance drop that I just broke down, drop a comment below and let me know which part hit the hardest. And if there was anything that wasn't clear, or you still have some questions, be sure to comment that as well, and I'll personally reply and see where I can help.